Okay. Harding. All right. So yesterday we talked a little bit of foreign policy across the pond. Okay. And I talked about this 5-power treaty. Guys, this we're going to be talking about for a while. Okay. So there's questions on this now and later. Right. So which country was the first to violate this treaty?
France.
Mr. Ebright? I was going to say France. Okay. We'll get that later. It's an inside joke. Okay. Now. All right. So, the point I was trying to make is people don't want war. This treaty is a piece of paper. If there's no way to enforce it, short of conflict, then you're not achieving the goal of not having conflict. Does that make sense? Did I say something funny? All right, so we're going to come back across the pond. Now, guys, this might be the most boring subject we cover all semester, okay? So I apologize, but we're going to do Harding's domestic policy, okay? Domestic being home, what's your domestic policy, okay? Now, Harding is a Republican or Democrat? He's a Republican. Now, because this is so boring, some of it won't be on the test. I'll tell you what's not going to be on the test. This stuff will be on the test, okay? This Republican president wants to do 4 things. He wants higher tariffs. Back. Go to tariffist.
Didn't we learn it last semester?
Stop and think for a second. Don't say anything. You know what it is.
I got it right on the test, but I memorized it like for the test. Not for the...
What do you think a tariff might be? What you think
like
about?
Something. Taxes.
Yes, it is a tax. Good.
Oh. Tax on importing.
Let's go. Let's go. That's another thing we learned from Hattie, is that we give longer for students to answer questions. You don't answer it real quick for them. Like I asked, that would be like, what do you call those kinds of questions?
Rhetorical.
Rhetorical question. Yeah, I don't just answer. I ask it and then answer. I give you time. Okay. And while you're thinking about it, other people are thinking about it too. This is good pedagogy. This is good pedagogy. What's pedagogy? How we learn. Okay, different ways to teach or learn.
If you would have given me more time, I would have got that.
In context, right? Okay. All right. Lower taxes. That's kind of a Republican thing, right? Generally. Okay. Less government spending. Kind of a Republican thing. Okay. And aid to disabled soldiers from World War I. Okay. And helping farmers. All right. So we're going to break down each of these 4. Now, what I put up next is kind of boring. It's not going to be on the test. Okay. So we're going to change some things in Washington, the budget procedures, how we do things in Washington during the 1920s, okay, under Harding. So Congress creates the Bureau of Budget. So let's say Congress wants to build a warship, okay? Before this, they would vote just on that warship. Do we want to build this? Spend the money on it? Yes or no? The House votes, the Senate votes. Good? Today, we don't do that. We have a military budget. Military says, this is all the stuff we want to do. This is how much it's going to cost. Will you pass an $810 billion military budget for next year? So what's inside that budget? All kinds of stuff, right? Yes? Yeah. Is it easy to kind of lose track of the money that way? Yes. Yeah. But it's a lot more efficient. It's quicker for Congress. Okay? So this bill right now in the Senate, guys, over the border, the funding of the Ukraine, and the funding of Israel, is a hot mess in the Senate right now. Okay? And Mitch McConnell, who's not a big fan of Trump, who's the Republican minority leader in the Senate. You guys know all this, right? He's like, Trump won the New Hampshire and Iowa. He's going to be the nominee. I'm going to follow what Trump wants. So McConnell pulled out of this negotiation with the Democrats. Now Mitt Romney hasn't. Okay. Mitt Romney's opened his freaking mouth again. Okay. Go away, man. He will in January. He will be gone. It's the sits.
Next January.
Yeah. When the new Senate comes in. Okay. So all requests used to go in, all requests go into a single budget. Now, this is what we haven't done in about a decade. Like, you throw the military budget in with the agriculture budget, the education budget, the infrastructure budget, it all goes into one budget, and we pass a $4 trillion budget. Both houses agree on it. We haven't done that in more than a decade. So remember how we say the government's running out of money, the government might shut down? This is how we've been operating more than a decade. What are called continuing resolutions to fund the government. Passing individual bills instead of a budget. Okay? So, we did this for a while, okay? But we don't do it, we haven't done it in a while, okay? So for the first time, if there's one budget with everything in it, you can see where all the money's going. Okay, where before you had to look at every bill, every expenditure. Okay, then they created the General Accounting Office, known as the GAO. Okay, which would see that money that we spend as a government was spent legally and would recommend more efficient ways to spend that money. GAO is still around today. Okay? So if you, speaking of degrees, my neighbor, his name was Tariq, went to Wichita State, got a degree in international business, went to work for the General Accounting Office in Chicago. Okay, he's been working there ever since. Mimi and Omar, his mom and dad that lived, they were my neighbors. She was French, he was Lebanese. They were freaking awesome. And they had 2 kids, Tariq and Ahmad, and then they moved to Chicago. And I just heard the sad news last week that Omar had passed away. They left about 20 years, 15 years ago they moved. But they were sweet people, okay? But Tariq still works in Chicago for the GAO, okay? I know, personal stories. Okay, sorry. Omar had that really big Middle Eastern accent. Just a wonderful, wonderful guy. Okay? He used to call me the mayor of
Just
Woodland.
more time.
Okay,
Just more time.
let's talk about tariffs. Now, guys, as Ms. Beck enlightened us, these are taxes on imports. Okay? Who pays the tax on the import?
Buyers.
Huh?
The buyer.
The consumer, yeah. The consumer pays the tax. So basically it says, we're gonna make this product more expensive for people to buy when it comes from overseas. That make sense? That allows American businesses that are not imports to have higher prices for their goods and make a profit. Because if you get cheap goods coming in from overseas, it undercuts American businesses. Make sense? Okay. Now think about this. Chinese are really starting to build cars. We know Kia, that comes out of Korea. Japanese are really good at making cars, right? The Americans, we've been making cars since Henry Ford and before, okay? China's getting into the market, especially the EV market, the electrical vehicle market, okay? Ford's, did any of you guys hear about Ford's pickup truck, their electric pickup truck? Yeah, it's not going so well, okay? They're not selling. Nobody's buying them, okay? So if China builds these really cheap EVs and they start selling them in America and our government says you have to drive EVs instead of gas cars, who's that going to help? It's going to help the Chinese. Same thing with solar panels, guys. Vast majority of solar panels on this planet are made in China. Okay, so if the government is pushing us towards green energy, who's that going to benefit? Yeah, and so the energy industry in the United States is affected by that, and jobs in this country are affected by that. Okay, but this is called protectionism, protecting American businesses and here farmers. Now, those dang Canadians, look at how big their country is. They have a very small population, okay? Those Canadians figured out how to grow wheat in the summertime. And they've got all this land to grow wheat. But they don't have enough people to eat all that wheat, so they dump it on American markets. Cheap. Because they can afford to. They're like offloading it in the United States. Well, what about American wheat farmers? They're going to get undercut by this cheap Canadian wheat. Okay? How's a farmer going to make a living in America? So we put emergency tariffs on Canadian farm products. Okay? To help our farmers. Brings up the cost of their wheat. Our farmers can make a profit. Okay? When it came to other industries, the Ford-Macumber Act gave industrial protections they wanted. Now, this is going to have the impact, a very negative impact, on the flow of trade. Okay? In fact, guys, when it's all said and done, you guys know the Depression's coming in 2930, okay? I'm going to start giving you causes of the Great Depression now. This is number one. By the time we're done with it, we'll have 6. In the last slide of the notes, we'll have those 6 on, okay? But I'm just kind of, hey, this is one of the causes. Is tariffs. It's going to clog the flow of trade. Now, let me do a hypothetical or just kind of an example of this, okay? How many of you guys right now are wearing Sperry's? All right. Look at your shoes. Tell me where they were made. Your Sperry's. It's in the tongue. It's in the tongue of the shoe.
Oh. Made in Vietnam.
Vietnam? China? Indonesia? Indonesia? Bangladesh? Vietnam? Indonesia? Bangladesh. Now, a Sperry to describe one would be a casual dress shoe. That casual dress shoe. Okay. Now I'm going to do a hypothetical. Okay.
Other base. Casual.
That's pretty good. What is that? Hi.
How low? What happened in Texas?
On.
Is that English?
That's England. Okay. Are you ready?
Yeah.
You're going to have to explain this to me on the test. This is why I'm doing this. Okay. You're going to have to explain to me how tariffs clog the international flow of trade. Okay. So, for the sake of argument, the Sperry's that you're wearing, made in London. By the way, I'm wearing Sperry's as well. Okay. These are the slip-on. Where are they made?
I didn't know they made.
Yeah, they slip on and off. Guys, there's a Sperry outlet out on Greenwich.
I thought they were Skechers.
Made in Vietnam.
Those Skechers.
Oh, these are Skechers. But they're made in Vietnam. Okay, sorry. Sketcher outlet.
Let's see the slip on.
Yeah.
Whoa. Nice and tight.
We need to look. Okay.
We should get the camera angle down there.
Yeah. Okay, nobody needs to see this. Okay, listen. Tell me, how much did you pay for your Sperry's?
I don't know.
Come on, give me some numbers. $100. 60? 30? Sale? 120? 80? I don't know. My mom got it for me. I wasn't paying attention when we checked out. I just took it for granted. I was entitled to these shoes. Okay. For the sake of argument, let's say the average Sperry is selling for $75 a pair. Okay? All right? Now, they're making these in London, and they're selling like hotcakes in this country. They're making money. So they're building new factories, building more shoes, and people in London have good jobs, and they're making money. Okay? Now, out here in the United States, in the middle of the country here, let's say there's an American shoe company in Nebraska called New Balance. Okay? Now, this is all for the sake of argument. New Balance makes what kind of shoes? Tennis shoes, walking shoes, running shoes, these sorts of things. Yes? Okay. Let's say New Balance wants to get into the casual dress shoe market using American leather, American labor, okay, American quality. Now, in order to pay the American worker, use those quality components. New Balance cannot make a shoe like that unless they charge $90 a pair. So the government says, we want New Balance to be successful. So we're going to put a tariff on Sperry's coming into the country. We're going to make them cost $100 at a minimum. Okay? So, for some of you who's a sales shopper, you just got priced out of the market for Sperry's. You're going to start looking at the New Balance, and you're like, 90, but that's all I got. That's all I can get. $90. I got to buy it from New Balance. Okay? What happens at the factory in London that's creating Sperry's?
They're going to start shutting down. They're not selling.
Okay, they're going to start laying off workers. They're going to start shutting down factories, right? Which means the people in London have less money. They have less disposable income. Now, I don't know if you guys knew this or not. There's a company out here in California called Dell. Dell makes what? And I don't know if you knew this, but people in London love Dell computers. Okay? Seriously, I'm just making that up. Okay? I'm making a point here. But if there's something that people in London buy from the United States, okay, people of London, the workers there, now have less money. So they can't afford to buy this product, these Dells, which they had been buying a lot of. So fewer people in London can buy these computers. What happens back at the factory at Dell? It starts to do what? Lay off workers, yes? Because it's not selling as many computers. Now, the people that live in America now have less money to buy on even American-made goods. This is one of the causes of the Depression. Can you explain this to me? Guys, this part right here. Europeans need to be able to sell their stuff here so that they had money, they were making money, and they could buy our stuff. That's called free trade. Okay? When we started putting tariffs, and guys, back in the 20s, guys, we produced a lot of goods in this country. We didn't ship it all out to Vietnam, to China, to Mexico, to Bangladesh, or Indonesia. You understand? We made it here. And we exported a lot of stuff. And so when we started putting tariffs on imports, those people couldn't make money and buy our stuff, and then they got mad. And they retaliated with tariffs on our stuff. Okay? So the simple answer is we put tariffs on their stuff, they put tariffs on our, I know. They put tariffs on our stuff. Okay, that's the simple answer. But understand the economic principle here. Okay, the United States consumes. We are consumers. And when the United States stops trading with you, you feel it. Because we buy a lot of stuff from people. Okay? So, can you explain that to me on that economic principle on the test? Yeah.
What's the benefit of American made? Is it just economic security?
Jobs. And national security, or the security of the health of this country. So, how many of you guys have taken ibuprofen in the last 6 months? The vast majority of ibuprofen on this planet is made where? In China. So, if we had American F-16 parts, you could produce those a lot cheaper in China. But that poses a national security risk if you get into conflict with China and they make the parts of your military aircraft. That's a bad idea. Now, the big one here, guys, is computer chips. Okay? What do you call them? Semiconducting, semiconductors, okay? The best computer chips in the world, that the world relies on this country for these chips, is Taiwan. Okay? If Taiwan were to fall to China, what do we do? Okay, computer chips are in everything these days, right? So, smart, okay. Nice job, Joe Biden, okay. No, like seriously, we got people to invest in building chips in America. Now the supply chain to get the materials you need for those chips, we're still working on. I mean, the Chinese have the supply chain down for this. You know what I mean? They got everything they need, and they make it happen. And Apple says we need this many phones, and Android says we need this many phones, and they got it. Okay, we don't have those supply chains in the United States. Those rare earth metals, we haven't been doing our job. We've been relying on China. We have built their economy over the last 40 years. The Chinese economy has outpaced the U.S. economy by leaps and bounds. Why? The American consumer and American businesses going over there. Okay. So we did it to ourselves, okay, for greedy reasons. Now, what benefits us if we keep those jobs made in the USA? Or jobs, manufacturing, which disappeared in the 90s with NAFTA. The North American Free Trade Agreement said we're going to have free trade between Canada, United States, and Mexico. No tariffs whatsoever, okay? So Ford Motor Company in Detroit says, oh, I can pay somebody $10 an hour in Mexico, or I can pay somebody $48 an hour in Detroit. Which one's going to allow me to make more money? And the government said, you're free to do that. And a lot of those jobs went bye-bye. That's why they call that part of the country the Rust Belt. The Rust Belt. Ohio, Michigan, Wisconsin, up through there. And then you take away the coal mines, you got more Rust Belt. Okay.
Is the infrastructure? Why Rust?
They were
The factories shut down.
Oh, okay.
That's
Rust. Okay. So the chip plant, I believe, is going to be in Wisconsin. Okay. Well, I mean, people will move for livelihood, if you can get a good job. Panasonic has opened a new EV battery place up near DeSoto, Kansas. Okay. Now, I'm not sure what the future of EVs are in this country, personally. I don't think the future of EV is very good right now. But we'll see. Yeah.
So if at some point, or after, like with the Chinese economy growing, and they decided that they like wanted to like, you know, hurt America bad, they could just like raise prices.
You know, you mean like by like creating a virus?
Like no, like if they wanted to like, if they decided that they had grown like strong enough to take it like to kind of like hurt America bad, like they could do it. Like 'cause we rely on them so much.
We got them by the, and they got us by them. It's a mutual thing.
Well, how do we have them? Because they rely on us.
Because
so
we
much.
buy all their stuff. So if we don't buy their stuff, they're in trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now when you talk about the national debt, 34 trillion, okay, China only owns about 1 trillion of that. Okay. Actually, Japan is the largest holder of American debt, which isn't much more than China. And then Saudi Arabia. Okay. But the vast majority of our national debt we owe to ourselves. That's going to open up a freaking can of worms. What do you mean you owe it to ourselves?
It's like the crackhead present.
Have we done this? Do we understand how we owe this money to ourselves? This debt?
Yeah. You explained it last semester.
I think I explained it.
Yeah.
You like the states and federal?
It's just the federal. So, U.S. Treasury, bonds, okay? We buy them from ourselves, we have to pay them back.
No.
Huh?
We don't.
Well, we haven't. We could. Okay. Did I talk about the privatization of roads? We could privatize all the roads and people pay tolls for, like, people own the roads and you pay a toll when you use it instead of taxes. So businesses own the roads. And the sale of all those roads to businesses, we use to pay off the debt. And so you only pay the roads when you use the roads. So you determine how much you pay for roads by how much you drive. I kind of like it. Put me in charge. All right. Back to this. You got another question?
No.
Okay. All right. So you guys can handle this?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. All right. Now, it's a good discussion. It's a great discussion, guys. Listen, what would you rather have? What would you rather have? Be able to go to Sam's, Costco, Walmart, buy one of these. This isn't that big. About $300 on sale, Black Friday. Okay, whatever. Okay, $300. Okay. If this was manufactured in the United States, it might cost more like $1,500. Follow me? But the people that were making that in the United States would have good paying jobs. We're not talking minimum wage here. We're talking, at least, $18, $20 an hour. Okay, something to manufacturing jobs. Okay. My son works for a company called Fastenal, and my son's account is Great Plains Steel. It's a steel company here in Wichita. Okay. Those people that work there aren't making minimum wage. You understand? These are manufacturing jobs. Okay. Those are good blue collar jobs that we used to have in this country. Okay. Manufacturing. But you're going to pay a lot more. The wages go up. Okay. More people have jobs. More people are paying taxes with good paying jobs. Okay. But you pay more for everything. But it's made here. So would you rather be able to go to the Skechers outlet or the Sperry outlet or Walmart and buy cheap crap made in China or Bangladesh or Vietnam, okay? Or would you rather have good paying American jobs and pay more for those things? Now, so when Trump ran for president in 2016, he talked about instituting tariffs on China. Now, Bush talked about this and Obama talked about it on Chinese steel and Chinese rubber. Now, neither Bush nor Obama had the you-know-what to do it. They talked about doing it, but they never did it. Then you get this guy Trump, says, I'm going to do it. First thing I'm going to do, I'm going to cut the corporate income tax in this country by 8%, which was high at 28, among the highest in the nation, in the world. 28% corporate tax, lower it to 20%, try and get those American companies to make those goods here, and we're going to put tariffs on those goods, so it encourages Americans to start steel companies, aluminum companies, and other types of companies to compete against China, because the rubber tires that we're getting from China are crap. And that causes lives on our highways. These bad tires. So make them in America, make them right, and have good paying jobs. That's what Trump tried to do. And I'm like, dude, I've taught history, and these tariffs led to the Great Depression. Like, and people are like, even people that like Trump are like, I don't know, man, about this tariff thing. Okay? Listen, right now, guys, our trade imbalance, if this is the US and this is China, we buy $585 billion more of their stuff than they buy of our stuff. It's called a trade deficit. They have 1.3 billion people. We have just over 0.3 billion. And we're buying so much of their stuff, they need to buy more of our stuff. That's what Trump was saying. What's our number one export in the United States? Food. China, buy more of our food. If you do that, we'll take some of these tariffs away. Just about to do that. And COVID hit. So when Trump put tariffs, other countries would probably put tariffs on our stuff. Okay? But this is what he was trying to fix. This trade imbalance. They can buy more of our stuff. We just need to encourage them to. And if they buy more of our stuff and there's a demand for our stuff, we got more jobs here. We have economic growth. You follow me? So this issue is very complicated, okay? And history tells us no. Do not use tariffs. Winston Churchill tells us no. Free trade. Okay? Good for the consumer. Okay? But there once was a country called Spain. Ready? Spain sent explorers out. Then they found places in Central America. And then the Spanish sent the conquistadors out. And the conquistadors ran into these people called the Incas. And the Incas had all kinds of what? Gold. And what did the conquistadors? They took it. And they took it back to Spain. And Spain was a powerful and wealthy nation because they had all this gold. And the neighbors around Spain said, man, we'd like to get some of that gold. So they made products to sell to Spain. So that's because they knew Spain had money and they'd pay for these products. And so they got that gold from the Spanish by selling them products. And then Spain, which didn't produce gold, it only stole gold, ran out of gold. And when Spain ran out of gold, it was no longer relevant. So if we don't produce anything here, and we ship it out all overseas, and we cannot produce anything ourselves, are we relevant? Now, we make planes, Boeing, Cessna, Beechcraft. We make cars. We don't make a lot of steel in this country anymore. We don't make a lot of aluminum. We're not making the computer chips. We're not making the clothing anymore. The textile industry in this country used to be huge. We got the cotton. Let's sell the cotton, have them make stuff for us, and sell it back to us. Cheap labor. Okay? So this is wouldn't you say this is an important issue? Like, so it's free trade or protectionism is kind of how it's normally labeled. Okay, so tariffs are protectionism. Okay, and you know what? When Trump explained this, I kind of said, okay, let's try it. Okay, because of this trade imbalance that we have with the rest of the world. Okay, especially with China. because they can afford to buy more of our products, more of our food, more of our cars. And when I was in China, I saw quite a few American cars in China. For some reason, you guys know what Mercury vehicles? For some reason, I saw a lot of Mercury cars in China. Maybe it was a status symbol or something, okay? Like Mercedes over here, BMW, okay? Something like that, okay? It was interesting. But guys, they're growing. They have more wealth than they've ever had. They can afford to buy some of our stuff, okay? Besides the food, okay? But more food, more soybeans. Buy our soybeans, damn it, okay? Because we make a lot of those. Yes? Corn, buy our corn, buy our wheat. Help our farmers. Tomorrow or Monday, talk about help to the farmers that we're going to do here. Okay? Good?
Good.
All right.